Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Talk About Transformers. On today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at the War for Cybertron Kingdom Voyager class Optimus Primal. I was really excited that they started releasing these Beast Wars figures. I never had an Optimus Primal growing up, but I liked the character. I really wanted the Masterpiece, but couldn't get it. So this was a nice alternative. Here he is in his Beast mode. He's got lots of nice coloring and texturing going on with his face. And the rest of him, you can see a little bit of his robot mode peeking through, but that's true for just about anything these days. That's a beast. They can't really hide it on the underside without it showing like cars, because you do see all sides of a beast mode. But he's got brown on his eyes. I don't know if they're painted any other color in there. It almost looks like there's a light little bit of paint for an iris. It's very small, but I think it's there. And then his face looks like it's molded in gray, and then the black is another piece that's added onto it. And I can't tell. I think this nose is just how deep it's molded. It looks black, because if I go down this way it looks black. If I go up this way, the light's getting in there. Down onto his chest, this part is molded in gray, this part is painted in gray. It looks a little different. It's not perfect. I never really bothered to notice it until now that I'm talking about what the materials are on camera, though, so it's not hateful, as Bobby would say. I literally never noticed it until now that they were painted and sculpted in different grays, so it's pretty good. The hands and the fingers are sculpted in gray with the black on the back painted on, so that looks really good. Black is harder to mess up than some of the other colors. Going down the side, you've got the robot stuff coming through. But it's all black sculpted, furry monkey, back of his legs, robot feet, and all that. Even the Masterpiece has this issue though, so I'm not going to harp on this guy. Then on his stomach and front legs, he's got kind of a weird looking posture almost, but it is very gorilla-like, this posture. And then you can see some blue here. These are for his fold-out blasters that come out of his back. But that's basically all the details on him. He does come with two accessories that aren't weapons that are part of him. The two accessories he comes with are his little swords here. So you can see the molded detail. I got some kind of a paint defect in there. I can't tell if something fell in it when they were painting it, or if it was like a bit of plastic that they painted around, but because it was raised up, the paint is thinner on it. Either way, it doesn't look like it's common across both of these, and they are the same mold, because they're not specific to one side of him, because they have tabs to store for both sides. But blue plastic with silver paint for the blade parts. It looks pretty good, and you can store it in robot mode and in ape mode in the same place. You've got slots on his back, and the tabs on the sword just go into those. Pretty simple. So now you have Planet of the Apes armed monkey, and we'll give him his little head tilt back. Now I'm going to do size comparisons, and then I'm going to show his alternate mode, which is more like the show where he stands up. I think the Masterpiece looks better standing, and I think this guy looks better crouching. So I'm going to keep this guy crouched, and if I get the Masterpiece, he's going to be standing. So for size comparisons, we have shiny Rubik's Cube. We have our Gormagala statue. So we have our Volkswagen Beetle and that gorilla is too big. It's like the gorilla from Mighty Joe Young almost. Anyone remember that movie, then you can feel old with me. And then for a Kingdom comparison, we've got our next Voyager review that's going to come out down the line, and that is Cyclonus, which I'm really excited about, but I'm going to have to find his gun because it's in a box somewhere. Because, I mean, it's not terrible storing on the top, and I like the way it looks in robot mode, but usually I just throw guns in the bin. I had to find the swords for this review even. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the swords off and go into a little mini transformation, and it's just changing the way his legs are. So I'm going to rotate his arms up out of my way. I'm going to go ahead and straighten his head out so that it's facing forward. And then basically what we're going to do is, the way the knees are right now, they are in robot mode configuration. You just have to bend them out, but there's a hinge in here, not the hip, hinge in here, so you can rotate it forward like so. So here's his leg straightened, and you can see that we activated that double hinge and moved it out of the peg, and here's his leg in almost robot mode in gorilla posture for the alt mode. And so that's another reason why I like having him in gorilla postures. It's less to transform, but there's a little tab on the underside of his knee that tabs into his robot knee, and that's going to hold that in place when he is in robot mode. So, and then you just got to kind of try and tuck everything under the butt and get these legs positioned under him, and then you can rotate his arms down and rotate his hands, maybe spread his arms out a little. And so there he is as a standing monkey. It doesn't look terrible. The butt doesn't sit as flush over the kneecaps this way, and the front looks a little awkward, but like I said, I like him the other way he is more. Continuing on with transformation, or as I should say, reversing transformation, we'll go ahead and move his arms out all the way. He's upside down, but that's fine, because that's going to help you pop his shoulder armor up. And then when we move his arms back down, they'll come out of the armor, but I want to keep them out of the way for now. Go ahead and straighten these legs back out, because working backwards is always fun. And then, unlike the Masterpiece, his monkey feet do not fold up, but fold out his robot toes. And then he's got a little baby swivel here. It doesn't go very far, but I like to have it swiveled so that the robot feet are pointing inward for his gorilla mode, and then I will swivel it so that they're pointed outward for robot mode. You can do whatever you want there. And then we're going to unclip this flap on his monkey stomach, which is going to be his robot butt flap. We'll take his monkey butt flap, we're going to rotate it. There's a mushroom peg, and then there's a tab that's going to go up into the slot. Go ahead and tab it in place. Right now it's going to come undone probably, but that's fine. Then we're going to separate the chest from, rotate his waist around first, 180, so his robot waist is facing forward. Then get his chest open. We can rotate his gorilla pecs around to form the robot chest, and this is just a pinhole for the rotation, but it always looked like nipples to me, which I just didn't know if that was intentional, but it almost has to be. So with this part, I'm going to raise up a little bit because he's no longer on all fours, so he's going to get a little taller. With this part, you want to pull this out, rotate his head back, focus on the monkey, rotate it around, fold it up, then rotate this whole structure around, and you can get his guns out now, which is what I'm going to do. because it's a little easier to do it while it's already opened up. But you don't even have to pop them out in robot mode if you don't want to. They can stay in there, but people are going to want to see them because they're an accessory. So they're coming out, and then you just pop this back together, and you can fold his guns down and straighten his head out. And then, like I said earlier, we'll just pop the arms down without popping the shoulder pads back down. And there you go. Now, as many of you might have noticed, I didn't do gorilla articulation. I just realized it. But that's fine, because he basically just has this swivel that I mentioned. His head will move like I showed during transformation, and his arms have pretty much the same articulation as robot mode. So I'm not going to reshoot it or edit it in. I'm just going to tell you now, and we'll live with it, okay, everyone? We'll live with it. That's fine. It's totally fine. Anyway, there he is in his robot mode. Go ahead and take a look at the details of his robot mode. So the head is really well painted, if I'm being perfectly honest. It's one of the best painted heads on an Optimus type figure in the main line, because it's molded in blue, and you've got ear fins picked out, you've got this metal part picked out, his face, the white parts are picked out in white, his eyes are picked out in red. Are there missing paint? Abs? Sure. Is this more than I'm used to seeing on a figure? Yes. Yes, it is. And he actually has his mouth hole. I believe the original was missing that. Coming down to the chest, you've got the molded gray plastic, but there's painted gray, and there's a little inlet here. Like, this is the monkey chest. Then you can see the groove, and there's another whole piece of plastic in here that is gray. It looks painted, and then there's silver on that. Then there's this dark blue outline, light blue details inside, more gray paint. I can tell it's paint because I got a chip there, and then some red detail around that. That's really nice. Then you've got silvery gray paint on the waist with blue highlights. The ball joints at the hips are molded blue to give him that color, and then there's red and white paint on his thighs. Molded blue struts connecting the robot feet that help in transformation and articulation, and also are accurate to the show with the red paint. He's still got the black paint on the back of his hands, white and red paint on the shoulder with lots of nice details, and then the back is just basically all black monkey. No real paint except for the black on his gorilla feet. I missed that in gorilla mode, but it's just like the hands, and these kind of move a little bit, but they don't do a whole lot for you. I mean, if you wanted to like get him in a pose, you could fold that down so you could have his toe tipped and he'd still balance. But and then his butt flap, I just leave it down. I don't plug it back in, but I just leave it down. But you can fold it up like this if you want to get at the flight stand adapter, which is also where it plugs in monkey mode. I just like to just let it rest down there. No harm, no foul. As far as articulation goes, his head, I believe, is on a ball joint, but there isn't really any side to side. You can get a little up, little down. He can rotate. The guns don't get in the way, and they don't have to be out if they did. You have a full 360 at the shoulder. The shoulder joint and the armor joint are on the same hinge, but because the armor has little molded things that make it snap, make it snap into place, it's you can move the arm without moving the shoulder armor around, which is nice. He's got a full 360 bicep swivel, hinge at the elbow that gets you the full range of an elbow. It's almost just like the Masterpiece here, where it's a hinge at the front. And then you get wrist rotation, 180 degrees of wrist rotation, and then his fingers can bend, which is really cool. So his fingers bend, and you don't have to open them for anything. His hand is molded in a 5mm port shape, but you open them so you can get the sword in and then close it on it so it's not running into each other. As mentioned in the transformation, he does have a waist swivel that rotates all the way around, but if you have his butt flap up, it is going to start running into stuff, which is why I just leave it down. We'll get his arm up and out of the way. He's got forward moving hips that start to run into his waist a little bit. There's no flap to accommodate, but that's fine. You pretty much get all you need. Then going back, you get all you need as long as you lift the butt flap out of the way. It'll go out to the side decent. It's about 45 degrees, maybe a little over, so it's not terrible. He's got a swivel built around that inner joint. If you see that the pin is not moving, so there is an actual extra joint there. And then you've got the little calf swivel type deal down here, so you can get his legs positioned pretty much how you want. He's got the knee bend that I was using for his gorilla mode, and then if you wanted to get a further bend at the knee a little bit, you could unpeg it, but then it starts getting gappy and it's not really worth it past this point, which only gets you a little bit more than 90, but it's still something. And then the feet have a little bit of pivot, and then you've got the forward the up movement from the transformation, not really any down, and like I mentioned, the back of the foot moves down to accommodate poses. I didn't really mention that in the gorilla mode because I didn't mention gorilla mode articulation. So if you were in gorilla mode, his arm would do the same stuff, just with the shoulder panel attached. Now in gorilla mode, when you're rotating the bicep, you can get some of that paint out, so usually what I do to position his hands is position his hands instead of just rotating at the bicep. So you just got to be a little mindful of what you're rotating and how far, so you don't show off the kibble. But if he's just in a, a knuckle pose, it's not going to bother anybody. He's got these mega blasters up here, and like I said, they can just stay inside if you want, but he also has another set of guns in his arm, so just push that so that this comes up, and then you just pull it out the rest of the way. This doesn't flip over or anything like the Masterpiece, but it is on a hinge, so you can angle it out. He's got one of these in each arm, so again, just get under here and push this section through, which will let you get it this much easier. Kind of like the Masterpiece, but better, because the Masterpiece had just like a little slot that if you had a fingernail you could press. This one's got a pretty big area that almost anyone could push through regardless of having fingernails. Another thing worth noting, there's an upgrade kit that's going to fill this, but it never really bothered me. He's got a gap right here. It's not even, I don't care. People, I guess, are freaking out, or else there wouldn't be an upgrade kit, but honestly, just stop. And then he's got one on the bottom too. Ooh, no, he looks fine from the front. So there you got most of his weapons. We'll take his sword. They don't tab in or anything. Like I said, his hands are molded in that 5mm shape. Close his hands up, and if you look at the bottom here, his fingers aren't touching the base of his palm like they are on this side, so the swords do require a little bit more of a gap than just his hands closed, which is why I recommend opening his fingers a little, putting his sword in, having him fall down in the process, and then picking him up. It's very important that you pick him back up after you let him fall, so that way he knows he can trust you. There he is, all armed up. Hooray, hooray for arming. We'll go ahead and get in our size comparisons. We've got our bright and shiny Rubik's Cube. I'm going to go ahead and move him over. And we'll have him look at the audience. The audience needs to know that you're paying attention to them, Primal. You're supposed to be the good guy, and then his feet don't want to be stable, shaking all over the place. What's wrong with you? Stand. There you go. So there he is with the Rubik's Cube. Go ahead and bring in the Goro Magala statue. Hooray! And then our Volkswagen Bumblebee equivalent. So, yep, Bumblebee's basically a tall Voyager size, for anyone who is curious about that. So the basically liter-sized MPM 12 scales really well with him according to a height chart I found. When I get the upgrade kit, it's going to make him a little taller, but it still should be within scale. Then for your Warface Arbitron, as per usual, if I've already reviewed one of the size class, I'll just put him in there for comparison. There he is with his buddy Rhinox, and Rhinox is a little taller, and I think that's accurate. I know that they're a similar size, but I believe Rhinox is a little taller at the head, and he's way tankier, which is how it's supposed to be. Basically what I'm doing with my figures is, if I haven't reviewed them, I've put them into alt mode, and then I'll just go through and transform them into robot mode as I go along. So go ahead and have him post with these a little bit. So yeah, you can get off some poses. He can be like those Egyptian, like Thoth or whatever. I'm not sure which god it is, probably several, but they've got like the cane and then the whip or whatever it is, and you can be doing that. Or X-Force, if any of you are Deadpool fan, you could have him just ready to go ape on some people. So there he is. There you have Primal, and he's a good Voyager. I really enjoy messing around with him. My brother got him before I did, and I was like, I don't know if this lives up to my expectations, and I played with it, and I wasn't that interested. But then I got my own copy, and when I realized that putting him in gorilla mode worked better and made him look better than having him upright, it made me appreciate the figure a lot more. But that's about it. I believe Monday's review is going to be Origin Bumblebee, and then next Friday's review should be Cyclonus, and at some point in the middle there, I'm going to have the comparison of Dragoon, because I got Dragoon back from my buddy John, and I'm going to have the Skybreaker, just so you can see the differences in height, which isn't that great. And then I can show off my modifications on my Skybreaker. And at some point I'm going to be reviewing Studio Series 54 Movie 7 Megatron. And that is movie 07, not movie number 7. Just because a person in one of the groups that I'm in wanted his weapon, and I never use it, so I'm going to ship it to that guy. So that way he can have it for whatever he needs it for. Maybe he wants to dual wield, maybe he lost his, I couldn't tell you. But I don't use mine, so I'll review it so you can see it in the review, and then it'll just come up whenever it comes up. But that's about it. See you next time.